to do with this?
Okay, so which poem are we going to do? You're going to tell it to me in Spanish, the name of the poem.
The name of the poem, Para mi corazón.
Right, I can't do that. Slower. Para
Mi corazón.
corazón.
Sí.
Para mi corazón.
Sí. So this Z sounds like a TH.
ZTH.
In
Okay.
English, like
cool.
I think or thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Normally, when I'm doing a poem, I would read the whole thing out first, even when I don't understand it at all.
Okay.
But I think if I did that, you'd be deeply embarrassed with my pronunciation. So would you mind reading it?
No, I don't mind. I can read it.
Should we slide it under the
Yeah.
pen? There we go. Okay, cool.
Okay. Para mi corazón basta tu pecho, para tu libertad bastan mis alas. Desde mi boca llegará hasta el cielo lo que estaba dormido sobre tu alma. Es en ti la ilusión de cada día. Llegas como el rocío a las corolas. Socavas el horizonte con tu ausencia, eternamente en fuga como la ola. He dicho que cantabas en el viento, como los pinos y como los mástiles. Como ellos, eres alta y taciturna, y entristeces de pronto, como un viaje. Acogedora como un viejo camino, te pueblan ecos y voces nostálgicas. Yo desperté y a veces emigran y huyen pájaros que dormían en tu alma.
Nice. Thank you.
Sounds good to you?
Yeah, it does. No, it's really nice to hear it because I was aware, even when I was reading the title, that I think I was changing the rhythm.
Okay.
So it's nice to hear how it flows out, and I think also some of these small words, these particles, so la, and the amount of emphasis on them or not, the way they flow into other words is something that I would get wrong. So what's your take on this poem when you first read it?
Well, I think it's remembering a woman, but is using is in lots of elements of the nature or of the nature of the day, and it always has a sad twist somehow, all of his poems, or at least from this.
So this is your special knowledge from this compilation, which if we flick it over we can see 20 love poems and a song of despair.
Yeah, well, despair already.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it? Because when I'm reading the translations, I'm feeling that despair, that sort of lingering wistfulness under the other poems, even before the last.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So it has. When I read it, I already noticed like quite a few words, adjectives, verbs that transmit that idea of sadness or lingering or remembering in a nostalgic way.
Okay, so basically that's interesting, listening to you as a reader of the poem and also as a translator. You've zoned in on the feeling, the main mood. So we've said so far nostalgia and lingering sort of sadness. Okay. And it's interesting to me to hear that you've zoned in on groups of words. Can you point them out to me?
Well, you have ausencia.
Yeah.
That's the first clear one, so the absence.
So ausencia means absent.
Yes. So she's not there anymore. Eternamente. So eternally, it's like it's lasting and it never goes away. That absence.
Is that an adverb?
Yes.
Okay.
The ending mente is the same as in ly in English.
Okay. So does that mean that in this translation on the other side of this poem, where he has gone for absence and eternally, that is an absolutely straight, direct translation across? So that's a kind of uncomplicated...
Exactly, yeah.
Except for the fact that absence, so I can say absence, and if you say...
Ausencia.
Absence, ausencia. This one's got ow in it.
Yeah.
If I was saying this to year 13, I went, oh, listen, it's got the word ow in it. That means
Ow.
pain. They'd go, Miss Wilson, you've gone too far. But the point I'm making is that it's exactly the same meaning linguistically, it seems. But then, as a poet, you'd be looking at the sound and saying, but how much is it the same? What are we losing by ending up with absence?
Exactly. Because also, like in Spanish, like you said, ow, it's funny, I hadn't thought about that, but in Spanish, when something is hurting, you say, ow. If your arm is hurting and I touch you, you might say, ow.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Which we would too as well, but maybe, you know, the AU, yeah. Ausentia and absence. So you have a th as opposed to a s.
yes.
And maybe they have a very similar mood, sound, feeling. And then eternamente. Have I said that right?
Eternamente, yes.
Eternamente. And eternally. Well, they both have the long sound. And I guess they're both from the same Latin root.
Yes.
But mente, ali, eternally. This one seems a bit more elegant to me.
It
But
might
maybe
sound,
that's me just thinking Spanish is exotic.
I have to say that we don't like to include many mente words when we're writing.
Really?
Because they're very long.
Ah.
And it's very mente. So, like in the same sentence, you'll definitely never have two adverbs ending in mente.
Right. Well, I think maybe we certainly advise people when they're writing poetry. You try to pay more attention to the nouns and the verbs on the whole because they're more specific than certainly adjectives or adverbs. But that's interesting. So the problem is the length of it. So metrically, it's extending the line.
Yes, exactly.
Eternamente. Eternally. Yeah, so it's one extra, isn't it? It's one extra syllable than we have in English.
And it was an extra syllable as well in ausencia.
So length and syllables becomes an issue.
Yeah. Traditionally, Spanish is always going to be longer than English.
Yeah. Okay, so back to your sad words. Just to
My
cheer
sad
ourselves
words,
up.
yeah, that's what we were.
Mrs. Sad Words.
Pinos is a pine.
Yeah, is it a sad word?
Well, it's a type of tree they always find in a cemetery.
Ah. Is that you talking or a Spaniard talking?
No, that's my Spanish literature talking.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
See, I would absolutely not have thought of that because when I come from in Scotland, the trees all down my mum's house are pines.
Oh.
And I spend my summers with her, or at least 2 weeks of summer, walking around pine forests. And to me, it means kind of freedom and being at home, and but it doesn't mean cemeteries.
It means cemetery to me.
Wow.
I mean, you find
That's a classic thing
somewhere
that
else
you wouldn't
as well.
know then without that.
Exactly.
So in Spanish literature, for example?
Well, actually, the only one I can remember is in Catalan literature.
Yeah.
You're gonna pick my brain
Sorry, I know
for
that's
this
absolutely out of the
author.
blue.
What was the name of this poet? The title of the poem is Samantiri.
You can write that down.
It's in Spanish, it's Catalan. So, Samantiri, which means cemetery of, Darcinera. And this is actually the name of a place backwards. Because he didn't want to let...
Just like a secret cemetery poem.
Yeah. So if
Wow, spooky.
It's
wonder how you say Hampstead backwards. Hampstead
exactly.
backwards.
Yeah, so this is actually the word Arenis, which is the name of a village in Catalonia.
Okay.
And he was describing that cemetery.
And this is a famous poem, is it?
Yes.
Right. An iconic poem.
Yeah, I mean, I studied it in school, in high school.
Okay, cool. So that's enough proof then.
Okay.
but also good to hear. It's good to hear. So, Pinos, I might have said, well, in English, pine means to not eat and to waste away.
Okay.
Longing for someone.
That's something I'm learning now.
I have said that you sang in the wind like the pines and like the masts. A poem about a woman, to me, and hearing the word pine, it's very difficult for me not to associate that with a sense of longing, which has been transported for me by that. So I've got my own personal freedom, forest, Scotland, but then sort of more standard association in English of longing. And then with this one, you've got secret cemeteries.
Yes.
What do you do with that? I don't know. Okay.
I don't know, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out.
Okay, we're doing sad words. Taciturna is another one. Entristecer is literally to become sad, because triste is sad.
Yes, and N is in.
Yes.
In a Latin way.
So it's like if it existed in English to sadden or to...
Yeah, to sadden does.
Yeah.
But there's no way that would say to sadden yourself.
Yeah. But you make many verbs out of an adjective in Spanish this way.
Ah.
Like loco means mad, so to become mad would be enloquecer.
Now, I suppose we have rage and enrage. You can enrage somebody.
Yeah. That would be a similar thing.
But you can't enhappy them.
No.
Enhappy would be a very ugly word, wouldn't it?
Unhappy.
So can you say that one again then?
Entristeces.
So again, that's quite a long word.
Yes.
But then to me, listening to it, that has an appropriately lingering sound. If you want to
Yeah,
talk
it
about
is,
sliding into being sad.
Although then it says de pronto, which means suddenly.
Ah?
So you become sad suddenly. So it's that immediate change.
So that's rather a nice kind of contrast between this long, slow, sad, and then bang that.
And then it goes back to the long thing, como un viaje, like a journey or a trip.
And if we look over here on this one, it's turned out you are sad.
You are sad.
Sorry, but where did that come from? Hello. Sorry, mister. Who is this anyway?
I saw the name somewhere.
This well-respected and very successful translator.
Indeed.
Whose book I like very much. But when I come across a line like that, I think, okay.
And you are sad.
And I suppose, actually, in John Donne, the Renaissance poet, who wrote lots of love poems and also religious poems about religious longing, he has several places where he just suddenly stops and has very simple language. So he has long, long, tortuous sentences, and then he'll suddenly go, this soft bed. And he has the rhythm of the 3 simple beats in a monosyllabic language. And in a way, that's more powerful than anything else. So I've just kind of taken the mickey out of this poor translator. And you are sad. It has a gravity, but it's not as beautiful and as sliding and as lingering as...
Entristeces.
Yeah. And you lose the falling in thing, don't you?
Entristeces.
And here it's just, you are sad.
Yes.
So teacherly, so unfair. Okay.
No.
Any more sad words?
Well, sad echo is kind of that it's not there, it's empty. That's why there's an echo. Nostalgica. Emigrar. Emigrar again is going away.
And again, that's
Emigran.
And here it's migrated. So you lose the E. So you're losing that sense of departure. Slightly meaning, for me, because I have Latin and Greek,
Yes.
then I'm conditioned to look at the letter E and think going away.
Yes.
Or perhaps in Greek it would be a. So I'm seeing that and I'm going, oh, hello, that's emphasising the leavingness of the migration. Whereas when you just have migrated, it becomes, in my mind, more directed towards where they're going.
Yes.
Maybe, but then again, if you said, I woke and at times birds fled and emigrated, makes it sound like they're going for a better job in Australia.
It does. Emigrated.
So maybe migrated, and maybe you get the of migrated, whereas if you said emigrated, it's kind of hard in English. Could you have either one?
Well, you have in Spanish as well migrar or migración.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
So it didn't have to be there.
Y a veces no, they don't have to.
So in fact, this is quite a deliberate choice. I think maybe he might have done it for the sadness of the M.
It could be, yeah, because then, yeah, because as you said, if you had emigrated, you have, I suppose, 2 very short words. Fled and is a bit
choppy. So if we hadn't done what you've just done, which is said, okay, to me the mood overall is this nostalgia, this lingering sadness, and you've just, I know probably, maybe we've done what you would never do and you've jumped in and zipped through, but I just wanted to sort of illustrate that those moods are there to be had. And to prove that, if you then look at the English, it seems to me that this translator has cottoned on to that overall mood, and he has made some choices like this.
Yes.
And in an English, even a bold way like this, which bring out the sadness. Because otherwise it might have had a more technical, hard feel, which would be lacking a lot of this subtlety.
Yeah.
For the listeners, shall I just read out this translation in English? Or do you want them to not hear that before we go through and talk about our own? What would you think would be more helpful for a person having a crack at this?
In this case, I think it would help, if you read in English, it will help understanding.
Okay.
It will sort of skip some steps that might take too long.
Okay, cool.
So,
but otherwise, normally it might be better not to bother. Oh, sorry. Okay. Your breast is enough. Your breast is enough for my heart, and my wings for your freedom. What was sleeping above your soul will rise out of my mouth to heaven. In you is the illusion of each day. You arrive like the dew to the cupped flowers. You undermine the horizon with your absence, eternally in flight like the wave. I have said that you sang in the wind like the pines and like the masts. Like them you are tall and taciturn, and you are sad, all at once, like a voyage. You gather things to you like an old road. You are peopled with echoes and nostalgic voices. I awoke, and at times birds fled and migrated that had been sleeping in your soul. Okay, it seems a lot less complete to me than I thought at the end there, actually. It feels like it's going somewhere, and then this little bit about the birds flying away leaves me really wondering.
It has, I don't know if this has an influence on that, but the birds have moved. Because the birds are pájaros.
Does that just mean birds?
Yeah, pájaros means bird.
Yeah.
Times birds. So if I read the English, it sounds to me, it might be like a stupid thing, me being Spanish, but it just seems that this last line that is to do with the birds, because the birds they had been sleeping in your soul, is a bit too far away from the birds.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But this line is too far away, whereas the birds are banging there at the beginning of this line in the Spanish. I see what you mean. So it's become dislocated.
Yes.
So could we just try this sentence? I know that's even weirder, isn't it? Terrible example. Start at the end, girls. But while we're on this one, because we don't have all the time in the world, should we do this sentence?
Yeah, actually, if we have time to do all of it, because there's something about this verb as well.
Oh, okay.
That is.
Should we do that? Should we do that then? The whole stanza.
So
hang on, I'll keep wiggling around trying to get the Spanish under the thing. There we go.
So, acogedora, to me, without looking at the English, it gives me like a very positive feeling, because acoger means to welcome.
Okay.
Or to take in with you, to accommodate. And because it's like an old road, so it's old, but many people have been through here, and he's welcoming you as well. And that's how you are. Okay.
So the English one there was, you gather things to you like an old road. And
acogedora.
Acogedora, this is the verb meaning you do something.
Well, that's the adjective out of the verb. So acoger is the verb. Acogedora is a person or a room. So that's the adjective.
Okay, so what does that word there mean then? You said welcome, taking with you, or accommodate.
Yes, so this is the verb, so welcoming.
Okay.
Or accommodating.
And what part of the verb is it? Is it a participle? Is it welcoming?
It's not the participle. The ending ora for feminine or 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 for masculine is the person who does something.
Oh, okay, so a person who is welcoming.
Yes.
Right. Or a person who is taking in with you, or a person who is accommodating.
Exactly.
Okay. And is that with?
As or like.
As or like. A person who is taking him with you as...
So is describing the person as being acogedora, like an old road.
And this is an...
Old.
Road.
Oh,
hang on a minute, an old road? That's like Brown Rabbit. Shouldn't it be Camino Viejo? Which one is road?
Okay.
Which one is road out of these two?
Road is camino.
Oh, hello. So
Hello,
we have an
I know.
unusual...
Yes, but again, we're dealing with a poem. So if any way you're allowed to do that, it's because you are emphasising that he's old. So what matters is the adjective.
Yeah, of course, super. So that's really interesting to... So because we know that we expect rabbits brown...
Yes.
And roads old in Spanish, and we're getting an old road...
Yes.
Now here's a question. Is that for the Spanish reader, does that make you notice this word more or that word more?
That one, the adjective.
The adjective, because it's the adjective that's being displaced. So the word old comes up and slaps you in the face.
Yeah, not a big slap, but yeah.
But a little bump. A little bump in the road of meaning
Como un
there.
viejo camino. Yeah, it's not just a road, it's an old road.
Okay.
And you're making a point that it's old.
Well, now that's interesting, isn't it? So does that, I wonder if that gives it more of an emphasis on this sort of familiarity with the woman.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. So how would you render that line?
The thing is that, because I have the idea of welcoming, whenever it gathers things, that sense or that feeling is destroyed completely.
Right, so this is getting rid of your welcoming thing. Because
even if
gathering
it's
is like picking stuff up.
Exactly, even if it's to you, but it's almost like that's too late.
So the to you is actually to you and gather are attempting both to convey something of this.
Exactly.
So
you gather things to you, but then the to you for me is too late. I already have the idea of gathering things.
And also the to you makes more of a focus on that person. This sounds more selfish. Listen, you go around gathering things to you, but obviously not me, and I'm so hurt I'm writing this poem. Is what that does to me.
Yeah.
Whereas this sounds more gentle.
This sounds very gentle to me. I have an idea of very, how to describe it? Very sweet, like, I don't know, acogedora como un viejo camino. It's something familiar.
It even sounds gentle when you say it, actually, because even though it's got these C's in, and if we read this in English with English pronunciation, which would be revolting, so I'm not going to, there would be a hard C, a hard V, a hard J, another hard C, and it would be chop chop, like somebody chewing.
Yeah, you've got the C's, you've got the two H sounds, which are not particularly nice.
But yeah, these open vowels, fairly gentle, aren't they?
Acogedora como un viejo camino.
I suppose here you've got perhaps the gentleness of the rhyme of old road.
Yes.
But that's still quite far away from the you, isn't it? Okay. So, different moods developing.
And then, I don't know if you would still get the same emphasis on old. As in English, this is the order that you normally follow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think perhaps the rhyme achieves some of that.
Achieves that.
But not wholly.
Okay.
Actually, partly you get it from an old, so a-o is quite a difficult vowel shift to make in your mouth, so an old road, a-o.
An old.
So to you like all this is fairly closed vowel, and then suddenly there's an open one there and flicking back into the long closed, possibly, but yeah, I still think it doesn't have quite the same, it doesn't achieve the same effect as that. I wish I could say them, I should be braver. Viejo.
Viejo, yeah.
Okay.
Viejo.
Yeah.
Very good.
Right, what about the next line then?
Now the next line, I do like, let's start with the Spanish. Te pueblan ecos y voces nostálgicas.
Yep.
I do like the choice of peopled. I was not familiar with this word used in this way. And I think it picks up a little bit what was left in here
Right.
by including like the people.
Sort of more human quality.
Yes.
Okay. And it keeps the P
Yeah.
on a basic sound thing.
I mean, poblar is to put people in a, to populate. As in, you have people in a place and they start living there.
Thank goodness he didn't say populated.
No, exactly.
You are populated with echoes of nostalgic voices. I mean, you might have gone, ooh, pop, no, boy. You know, it's got that oh sound in it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's awfully harsh and also very technical, isn't it? Peopled.
Yeah, it gives that human touch.
I think
again.
also to say that places are peopled is a slightly older use of the word as well.
Okay.
I can't think of biblical translations that say the world is peopled, but for some reason it has an older ring to it.
Mm-hmm.
Not letting the geography department loose on it, they would probably say populated. They didn't say
They're
that.
not involved in this.
No, they're not involved in this. But might give it to them and see. Could they do a geographer's version? It would be beautiful. See what they think pines are. No, it would. Delicious. A delicious geographic translation. There's a wonderful poet, an Irish poet called Eve Boland, and she writes lots of poems using cartography, using maps. And she looked at the maps of Ireland and seeing how, when there was a famine there, the Great Famines, one of the things the English government did was give Irish people work to do, which was building roads. The roads were wholly pointless, and some of the roads stopped where the people basically ran out of food and were unable to work anymore. And she's written these very, very beautiful poems using the image of those maps.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very geographical, so there we go, reclaiming that one.
There is a link.
Okay, so you are peopled, you putting people in, echoes. How does this glue together? I'm not quite sure I understand how that line glues together grammatically.
So, te pueblan basically is making this verb reflexive
Okay.
with a te.
Yeah.
So, ecos and voces nostálgicas
Uh-huh.
peopled you.
Oh, okay, so this is the subject.
Yes.
Subject, verb, object.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That happens.
So all of these things are doing things to you.
Yes.
And is the you here the woman?
Mm-hmm.
Is it normal to put the you at the start like that?
In the case of a reflexive verb, yes.
Yeah. Which is pretty handy here, isn't it? Because it's all about you. It's like you.
Mm-hmm.
People are by these things.
Yeah, also
if we were to be literal.
because in Spanish you don't have to use the subject, the pronoun,
Uh-huh.
the personal pronoun, because the verb will have an ending that only belongs to that person.
Right.
So, for example, the use of yo in the next line.
Yo.
Yo.
Sorry to do that. It's terrible. A puerile joke says using a Latinate word. Anyhow.
I've heard it before.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. He could have written the same without using yo, because if I read desperté, I already know it's yo. It cannot be any other person.
Why is that?
Because in Spanish, for every form of the verb, we have a different ending. So the I form has one ending, the you form has another ending.
So if this was an I form, what would it be?
That's I form.
Oh, that is I form.
That's I form in the past.
So this is you form and this is I form.
Yeah.
So you are peopled. These things all people you. And this one is?
I awoke.
Uh-huh. I see.
I woke up. I opened my eyes, literally.
So to preserve that, our translator has partly why he's gone, you are peopled, I awoke. So he's kept that very strong relationship between the UI,
Yeah.
which is the relationship the whole poem is about. So
Yes.
okay, cool.
And then we come
That
to
looks
the
beautiful. Ecos y voces.
voces.
Voces. It just looks good, doesn't it? It looks such like an interesting, balanced phrase. Echoes and voices. It almost echoes itself, actually, visually.
Ecos y voces.
Which is an awful lot more messy here.
Yeah, again, it's got voices.
Echoes and nostalgic voices. So the voices have been displaced by the normal English word order there. So a Victorian translator might have gone, not that Neruda was writing then,
No, not yet.
echoes and voices nostalgic.
Okay.
So if this was a piece of Browning,
Mm-hmm.
Robert Browning was writing this, he would have gone echoes and voices nostalgic.
I see.
Because the idea then was to have beauty and poems that hung together in a metrically simple, but
Uh-huh.
beauteous, flowing musical form.
Uh-huh.
And so any form of disruption wouldn't have been tolerated, but you would disrupt the word order into potentially Latinate one in order to make it smoother.
Oh,
So echoes and voices nostalgic.
interesting.
It sounds sort of ugly to me, but if it were in the middle of
This
a
is
long
nostalgic.
rhyming Browning poem, it would fit.
It doesn't sound that ugly to me.
No?
No.
Quite nice. Mm.
I
But
guess
a little bit
it's
schmaltzy,
nostalgic.
people might say. A little bit overly sympathetic.
Okay.
What can you do? What can you do? I still think it's a shame that those two things are displaced from their little relationship together. You and me, echoes and voices. What a shame.
It is.
Can't see a way around it though.
Some things you need to give up on when translating as well.
Key point.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, right, I'm going to take your advice and give up on that.
Okay.
I'll leave it to Browning.
And we get to the pájaros bit, to the birds.
Yeah, so hang on, we said here I awoke and...
Sometimes, a veces. A veces means sometimes.
there, a veces, yeah.
Yeah. Emigran y huyen. Huyen is the verb like to escape.
Oh, hang on, so I awoke and...
Sometimes.
Sometimes something or other has gone away and has
Like escaped.
escaped. It was the birds.
Yes.
Wicked. That's wicked, but I can't even begin to see how you could achieve that in English. I awoke and sometimes moving away and escaping the birds.
Because that is a very difficult bit to translate because
Yeah.
you have, so pájaros is your noun,
Yeah.
but then que dormían en tu alma is sort of qualifying the birds because it's saying that they were sleeping. So the birds that were sleeping
So
in your
is this
soul.
who were sleeping?
Yeah, who were
Which were
yeah,
sleeping? Yeah.
in your soul.
Mm.
So that in a way to me has to go with birds.
Yeah.
But then these are the verbs that go
That
with
really
birds.
screws it, doesn't it? They have to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because you end up with this very... He's given up there, hasn't he? That had been... Sleeping in your soul is a beautiful phrase. I think maybe he's thinking, listen, I'm going to get away with it because of the beauty of this final phrase, sleeping in the soul. That had been... Yeah, what can you do? Fabulous. Now, I couldn't even begin to explain what it is that's so cool about this, but it's something about being surprised by the bird metaphor. Because you just don't see it coming. And there's something beautiful about like birds and what little fluttery, delicate,
Yes.
but also strikingly independent creatures. Like when you keep a bird, you have to keep it in a cage or an aviary because it just will fly off. So I think that's a super cool metaphor.
And now that I'm thinking more about it, you're saying you have to keep them in a cage because otherwise, you know, like it is suggesting here, they go away, they escape. But then it's saying that they were sleeping in your soul.
Ah, yes. So although normally they would run away and do all this stuff and generally behave like birds,
Yes.
in fact, in your soul, they have been having a kip, having a nice sleep, at rest, at home, comfortable.
Yeah, so again it gives the idea of like she's peaceful, she's welcoming, she's calm. I don't know.
So
I'm
that
just
adds, that
imagining.
goes back to your welcoming word here.
Familiar.
Nice. Well, I think I would love to know how you would translate this, but I think that I wouldn't ask you to say it now because it
Okay.
would take thought.
Yes.
If you were able to make us a one stanza version, that would be
Okay.
lovely.
Yeah.
And we'll ask the girls if they could attempt the
Of
same.
this one here.
Because they're just as capable as I am now from your tutorial to do that. I mean, have a whole range of different attempts at that last stanza.
Okay.
But I think we can't leave this one without going back to the title.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the title.
And that might finish us off.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the reason why I wanted to pick this poem and the one that surprised me the most was because the title to me is not completely different. It relates, but it surprises me that it uses the word breast in English.
yeah, so the one under the camera at the minute is...
Para mi corazón. Corazón is your heart. Heart. So it's like for my heart in the sense of for my for this person that is dear. You know, you call
like my dear heart.
my dear, my loved one.
Right.
You know, you can say mi corazón.
And does this literally mean for my heart?
Yes. As in dedicated to.
Ah. Whereas it's like a Bond film. Your breast is enough. Oh, listen, maybe it's like the birds again. It's chicken breast. Yeah. I've just killed this poem now. What a shame. Okay, anyway, so a dedication for my loved one, for my heart. Very beautiful, very direct. And instead we get your breast is enough.
Yes. Now, if I read it saying that, or having said that, if I read it in the title without going into the poem yet, I would think of that it is dedicated to you. But then it's part of the first line.
Ah, yes.
So, para mi corazón basta tu pecho. Then it loses that dedicated to you, and instead
it gains. Sorry, I'm interrupting. And instead it gets what? So it's the basta tu.
Pecho.
Yeah.
Is your chest.
Yeah.
Or the chest area. Okay.
Yeah.
Basta is where the is enough comes from.
Okay.
Bastar, it means it's sufficient.
Okay.
So
it's for my heart. Sufficient is your breast.
Yeah.
If you just transliterate.
Yes.
Okay. And then he says, your breast is enough for my heart. Which is not so weird. But it comes out, the convention, I think, with Neruda sometimes, or certainly in this book and the other book I've read, it seems, is that you just take like the first few words and that becomes the title. A bit like the poet Emily Dickinson, the American revivalist poet who didn't give any of her poems titles at all.
Oh.
And so they're all known by sometimes a number or the first line.
I see.
Just the first line. But when you make it the half, that's quite an interesting sort of change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
For your freedom. Yeah.
It's
I mean,
quite
once
beautiful.
you start reading, then you see why, or you can understand at least why it's chosen to give such a change into the title.
It's interesting, the last word though goes from chest to heart.
Yes. Where the heart is here,
Yeah.
and that's...
Because in English poetry, often first and last words, or central ones, are key.
So it's making that key anyway.
Yeah.
Although it's has thrust it there, but still.
Yeah, yes. Oh, I
Puts it
see.
back
So maybe
there.
it's reclaimed there when it doesn't appear in the title.
Maybe.
Interesting. Cool. Could you perhaps just give us one last reading of the poem in Spanish?
Okay.
Just to finish it off, so that the girls, when they have a go at this, can just hear the mood of it coming through.
Okay.
No pressure.
I hadn't read a poem in many, many years. Out loud. Okay. Para mi corazón. Para mi corazón basta tu pecho. Para tu libertad bastan mis alas. Desde mi boca llegará hasta el cielo lo que estaba dormido sobre tu alma. Es en ti la ilusión de cada día. Llegas como el rocío a las corolas. Socavas el horizonte con tu ausencia, eternamente en fuga como la ola. He dicho que cantabas en el viento, como los pinos y como los mástiles. Como ellos eres alta y taciturna, y entristeces de pronto como un viaje. Acogedora como un viejo camino, te pueblan ecos y voces nostálgicas. Yo desperté y a veces emigran y huyen pájaros que dormían en tu alma.
Thank you.
Fin.